Hello everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here, and here's my review of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I went to go see it Saturday. So as I said, busy weekend, having lots of fun here in the UK despite the weather with the coronation. So cheers King Charles, thank you for the extra day off. So let's get into this thing. So, as we know, the track record of Marvel films of Phase 4 going into Phase 5 has been shocking, to say the least. This is the first one I've been to see at the cinema since Doctor Strange Mom, Multiverse of Madness. Because that just really put me off going, quite frankly. Like total waste of money, overly convoluted, and basically it was a Scarlet Witch show. So but I had been looking forward to seeing this one. Out of everything on the slate, this is really the only one that me and my friend said, yeah, we want to go to the pictures to see this one. And we went to go see, all the other phases together up to Endgame. And we saw Multiverse of Madness together and both went, what was that? And my friend's like, not a massive geek when it comes to this kind of stuff. I wouldn't say she's a normie, but but she pretty much we sort of tend to agree on whether we like these films or not. So I have to say I did enjoy it. I did like it. I think it's a good film. Not the best by a country mile in terms of the Guardians films, but it was absolutely watchable and it was entertaining, and boy was it emotional. As I said last, like animals, I was a mess. So obviously we meet the gang. Peter's obviously this carries on from the Christmas special, which you won't need to have seen to be able to just get into this, but there's a couple of references to it, and Peter's still heartbroken over the old, obviously Gamora died, and then we've got her previous self introduced, who's a complete dick, as Peter says in the trailer. And yeah, she's not nice. She's not nice. She's still very much in the mold of having lived with Thanos. And so we sort of see him, he's getting blotto drunk in Nowhere, and everybody else is trying to look after Nowhere. And then this is where we get the introduction of Warlock. Obviously, that's the carryover from the Easter egg in Volume 2. I actually enjoyed this character. I mean, a few people sort of said, well, he doesn't really add anything to the plot, which is kind of true. But I actually thought the portrayal, again, I don't know how the character's portrayed in the comics. I think he's got a much more serious role. And I believe he was involved in the Infinity War in the comics. This is very much, I think, a comedic role. Brought some very needed humor, because this is quite dark, this film. And he's basically come to kidnap, steal Rocket. Rocket's creator wants him back, because we know Rocket's genetically engineered. And that's basically the thread of the movie. The whole way through, it's his creator trying to get Rocket back. And he wants Rocket back because he was his first creation that not only could he increase the intelligence of, and he could learn to do things. He could think for himself. He could solve problems, and he could look at something and say, well, it doesn't work because of this. And he's not been able to replicate that in any of his other experiments. So he's constantly trying to create this perfect race, and he sees himself as a god. And he is, and I will say kudos to James Gunn on this one, that he is a true villain in this. There's no sad backstory, or they've got some redeeming feature. that it's, you know, something's happened that's made them that way. He's just an out and out villain, and you loathe him. Well, I certainly did, because obviously we see through a series of flashbacks. But so Adam comes to try and steal Rocket. Rocket gets seriously injured. They take him to the med bay, and they have obviously these med packs. But then they find out that Rocket's got some sort of kill switch. So the med pack is actually killing him, and they can't treat him. And they need the key for the kill switch. And that's basically the plot of the film. So how do they go get this kill switch and to save Rocket? Then in a series of kind of flashbacks where with Rocket, we see him from when he's a tiny little baby, being experimented on and developed, and he makes a group of friends who you would have seen in the trailers, who have all again been experimented on. And so as an animal person, it's a very uncomfortable watch. It really is. And there's a few scenes in there, and one's particularly around Rocket, which I won't give away. Oh, I was crying, my friend was crying, the cinema was crying. What you could hear was people sniffing and like men going, "Oh, I've got something in my eye." It's a really, really emotional film in that sense. And again, I think it won't be everybody's cup of tea, because it is quite. But I think you've always had that in Guardians, you know, when Volume 2, when Peter finds out that his father actually deliberately gave his mother the brain tumor, and obviously the fact that in the opening of Volume 1, Peter's mother dies of cancer. I mean, it's always had that kind of, which I think is a very James Gunn trait. But however, it kind of really does lean into this quite a lot, especially with the animal experiments. And it's also quite violent as well. I just looked up what the certificate here is in the UK, and it's PG-13 in America, which we don't have. What we have is a 12A, which means if you're under 12, you have to be accompanied by an adult. And I absolutely get that. I mean, obviously, we know that it had the first F-bomb, which actually was used well, and it was quite funny. I did laugh. And Karen Gillan's great in this as Nebula. They've really sort of stepped up her character and how much she's used. Obviously, Drax and Mantis's relationship is more of the same from the Christmas special. So that's the only thing, is that as much as there's some humor in their relationship, it doesn't really evolve in any way. You just got them constantly bickering and misunderstanding each other. But again, there is some good jokes that land, some that don't really. But I will say that quite a few people were laughing. There were some laugh out loud moments. Whereas I've seen some other reviews where people said the jokes didn't land at all. I don't think that's true based on the audience I saw it with. But again, sometimes, you know, it gives me a difference in your type of sense of humour. Obviously, British sense of humour is very different to an American sense of humour. So I think what you're seeing is that internationally, this film is doing much better than it is domestically. And I think the British audience do tend to respond better to sort of dark humour, or black comedy, as it's called, here. So I think maybe it's resonating a little bit better. I don't know, speculation. But overall, yeah, I mean, for once it subverted my expectations in a good way. That I will say, spoiler, they don't kill off Peter. Which I was, you know, wholeheartedly expecting. Either, you know, I was absolutely expecting one of the team or a main character to get killed. And I would say there is some really, really sad moments in this. But overall, I did enjoy it. I do get the criticisms that it's a bit long. You could have cut 20 minutes out of this quite easy, even maybe half an hour. But at the same time, I kind of still enjoyed it. I didn't really feel there was massively pacing issues. I wasn't sort of sitting there going, but you know, the last bit, as people said, it is quite drawn out. But knowing it's Peter Gunn, James Gunn, that's completely different artist. It's like James Gunn's final Marvel and Guardians film. You really got the sense he was saying goodbye to the characters and kind of wanted to set them up the way he wanted to set them up. But obviously, knowing Marvel, they'll probably, excuse me, completely crap all over where he wants those characters to go. So yeah, I mean, definitely not a perfect movie, definitely not the best Marvel movie ever made. I saw a few people saying I'm not sure I'd watch it again. I would actually watch it again. I would definitely be getting the Blu-ray to complete my Guardians set. And I would watch it again. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's one I'd watch just standalone, like, oh, I'll put on volume 3. But I would definitely sit there and watch 1, 2, and 3 again if I was sort of wanted to watch the trilogy. I wouldn't just stop at 2. I would sort of round it out. Because to say it is quite an emotional watch. It was for me. If you don't give a flying fig about animals and they're just not your jam, you'd probably watch it and go, I don't get what all the fuss is about. But one spoiler alert, whoop whoop, spoiler alert, whoop whoop. So yes, in fact, Rocket is a raccoon. He finds out that he is actually a raccoon, which is quite funny. He finds these little baby raccoons in the lab, and he reads the thing, and then basically they're from Earth. So Rockets originally, we assume, Rockets originally was taken from North America to be experimented on. So, but he completely embraces his identity, and he's like Rocket Raccoon, and it's great. So the villains get their comeuppance, and again, there's a couple of bits where it's quite gory. I was like quite shocked. I love my horror films, so I wasn't shocked at that, but for a Marvel film, I was like, woof, blimey, they're not pulling any punches there. And it is quite violent in lots of ways. I mean, obviously, it's Marvel violence, but the body count's high. And Groot was great. Groot is now sort of, I guess he's meant to be like late teens, early 20s now. It's hard to keep track. But yeah, he's back to being like more old Groot. I'd love to know how much money Vin Diesel makes for saying I am Groot. And there's just a running gag that obviously we know I am Groot stands for lots of things, and Gamora doesn't remember anything, obviously, of being with the Guardians. She's a different version, and she's just like, a bit like Peter was going, you're just making stuff up. He's not saying anything. How on earth is that what he just said? So you kind of got that as she's trying to negotiate the I am Groots. So I think it's definitely worth the watch. Obviously, any Marvel film where there's a lot of visual action and stuff, it's better in the cinema. And I have to say the cinema was pretty full. It's probably so it's about a 3 o'clock viewing on a very wet Saturday afternoon when the coronation was on, and it's probably 3/4 full. So that's probably about the same as when I've gone to see other sort of phase 2, phase 3 films, that sort of time in the afternoon. But as I said, the international box office is doing much better than the domestic. It'd be interesting to see what happens with sort of word of mouth that, I think more people are saying it's good than bad, or certainly, the best thing that's come out since, as we would say, since Endgame. The best thing since Endgame. And it probably is actually, I would say it's definitely the best thing we've had since then. It's a little bit self-indulgent, I think, by James Gunn saying goodbye to his characters. But you do get some character development. You do sort of see Gamora starting to soften a bit, like being around the Guardians. But they've also kind of set it up that she's never going to be the person that she was, and so it's really unlikely her and Peter are going to get back together. And he needs to sort of figure out how to move on because she's now with the Ravagers. And Stallone's back for a little cameo. So yeah, overall, I felt there were some good jokes out in there. Like I say, quite a few people laughed out loud in the cinema. Quite violent, quite a bit of swearing, bit gory in places, and flipping sad. I'm not sure if I'm selling it, but I did actually genuinely enjoy it. And yeah, and I think the proof is that I would watch it again. I wouldn't necessarily go back to the cinema and watch it again, but I'll definitely be getting it on 4K or Blu-ray, whatever it comes out on, to complete the series. So yeah, I think it's worth, paying to go see it at the cinema, and kill 2.5 hours to go see it. I'd like to think people wouldn't be like really disappointed when they come out going, "Oh, blimey, can't believe she recommended that." I would say go. It's more fun than not, but do take your hankies with you. That's all I say. So that's it really for Marvel. I mean, I've got no interest in seeing the Marvels at all. Whether I'll go just to review it for the channel, but I really don't want to put myself through that. I can't stand Brie Larson. But in terms of anything else coming up, there's film-wise, there's nothing else. So I think part of it was a farewell from James Gunn, and maybe for me a farewell to going to the cinema to see Marvel films. The only other thing I'm looking forward to, and I say that apprehensively, is Secret Invasion. Again, once that's been on, there's really no reason for me to keep Disney Plus. I'm really looking to get rid of that. Yeah, I think bad days coming up for Marvel, and it doesn't bode well for James Gunn going to DC. I mean, he really needs to revamp the genre. He needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat, or a raccoon. Anyway, so that's it. That's all I can say. It was good, a little bit long, funny, sad, and entertaining. So I'll leave it up to you. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.